Hi, everybody. This is Hollywood Progressive back again with Dick, Sharon, and Linnea. Tonight, we're talking about a marvelous play we saw over the weekend called She, that just had its world premiere at Antaeus Theatre in Glendale. It tells of a 13-year-old Black girl who has awfully grand dreams for the hardscrabble Southern town where she and her mother struggle to get by. At the intermission, I turned to both of you and called the play magical. Nia, why would I do that?
I don't know. No, this was a magical play. This touched, I think, every person in every seat in this theater's hearts. I don't think there was a dry eye in the building by the end of it. This show grabbed all of us from the start and immediately strapped us into a journey that we were interested in learning about from the first line uttered by the character she. This took, I don't know, I personally try to go into these shows very blind, very cold. I try to experience the show as it is so I can give a very objective review and opinion based on my what I saw, how I felt about it, and we have a little conversation about it right afterwards. So I didn't know what to expect. I had a vague idea. um I was pulled in from the start, and every scene was meaningful. Every scene had dialogue that made sense. There was bit no moment where I thought, they could have done without that. This was a beautifully scripted, beautifully acted, and astoundingly designed show, set, everything. Um, Truly something that, again, everyone in the audience connected to some piece of the show, some way, shape, form, or another. Um, and I am going to keep my part brief because I want to pass it on to Sharon so she can talk about uh, her experience with the show. But I feel like we've said this a couple of times, but if I could go back and edit those videos, I would. This was by far one of the best put together shows that we've ever seen, I've ever seen. Um, the other shows were presented well. This show was made well. This show was written from a place of truth, um, from somewhere in the playwright's life, and you could feel every syllable that was said was impactful, advanced the story. And I have to say again that the technical aspects of this show really set it above and beyond anything I've ever seen. And we've seen shows at some very grand playhouses with some very fancy, I'm sure very expensive tech that can do really fancy things. And this playhouse and the designers, we list them all in our review, the set designer, the videography designer, the props designer, everyone really brought their best for this show, and it came through in a magical way that I'm dying to see it again. So that's gonna be it for me. Sharon, I would love to hear your take on it and how you felt about the show.
Yeah, so your dad did turn to us and said magical, and I could not agree more. For me, the play takes place, it's a story of a 13-year-old, and I don't know if they tell you the year, but you can get a sense of when this is 60s and the 70s, when I was a 13-year-old in the 70s. And a lot of the music playing in the background, like one of the early pieces was Minnie Riperton's Lace Flores. And then throughout, you'd hear just little background music. This is the life of a Black young child and her mom's boyfriend and her boyfriend. But as you would hear in a Black household, there is always music playing in the background. Certainly that was my experience and that was my life. And in my life, during that period, I would have heard Curtis Mayfield, and Curtis Mayfield was in the back with in the background with Diamond in the Back, Sunroof Top, Digging the Scene with the Gangsta Lean. And every part of this play took me back 50 years. And it almost felt like someone saw my life and wrote down my life. And this little young girl who had so much hope and aspirations for the future, but so many hurdles to climb and so little support in climbing those hurdles. It took me back. It made me see myself in ways that I hadn't looked at myself in a long time. And I have to admit that it really sort of opened a window into a deep well of pain for me personally. It was one of the most accurate portrayals of life for Black young women at that period that I've ever seen. And the young woman who played the role of She, that's the title of the play, and it's also the name of the character. Her name is Camille Ariana Sperlin. She seemed to be wise beyond her years. I kept looking at her, and her body looked like the body of a 13-year-old. I don't really know how old she is, but you could tell that she was tapping into a deep, deep place of pain herself. And when I read her bio, I could see why. So it was absolutely moving. We saw it 2 nights ago. I'm still feeling it.
Yeah, so agree totally with everything I've heard. What was heavy in my heart was living in my heart early on in the play. Sharon touched on that it's similar to her life. It is her life. Here's this young girl who has the world open up to her, if only she could step through, but she can't for economic reasons. She doesn't have the family support. And I've heard that story from Sharon starting 20 years ago. And I know that she says it opens up a deep well of sadness, and that was going on for me the whole time, because I was imagining what Sharon is feeling. Even before the first character steps on the stage, I was already smitten by, as Nia says, about the stagecraft, the displays, the graphic displays on the back, and the music, and the way there's one scene where She's mother and her no good boyfriend scamper across the stage. They're gonna go out and they get married and stuff. And it was such good acting. I mean, just to run across the stage that way. There were so many touches like that. There were so many touches of just wonderment. And as I think, as Nia says, we've gone to the big theaters where they've got, little fleets of people working on them. But this is an 80-seat theater. I read that this play was actually ready several years ago, but kept getting delayed because of COVID. And that is another thing I thought. Well, we're here like at the second or third performance of this play, and it's just spot on. Everything, the dialogue, the acting, the movement, the way they look. Yes, who plays She, Sojourner Freeman, the star, the center of the story, and her supposedly 14-year-old boyfriend, Davy Manshas, played by Lorenz Arnell.
Lorenz Arnell.
Arnell, okay. They look like teenagers, but no, they must be in their 20s, but they were so good at playing little kids.
But not just little kids, a certain kind of little kid.
Yeah.
this is the kind of young woman and young man who've lost their innocence a long time ago. And I'm not talking from a sexual perspective. I'm
Right.
talking about seeing things in life that they shouldn't have seen, having to take care of themselves and not having an adult present when an adult should have been present. There's just that's the life. And sadly, it doesn't change much when you become an adult. So recently you and I were reading a book, is it Demon Copperfield? Is that
Right.
the name of it?
Yeah.
Where you have a young man who comes from humble beginnings, but he's a white young man. So at least when he gets out into the world, he still doesn't have people slamming the door in his face.
Right.
And so with this young Black woman who does not have the family support that she needs, she's also not going to get the kind of support that she needs when she gets out into the world.
Yeah, so all the characters are Black. 2/3 at least, maybe 3/4, maybe 5/6 of the audience was Black, but it's really not a Black play. It appeals
What
to,
is a Black play?
well, I don't know. I don't know. What I mean to say is it would appeal to anybody. It isn't about looking into Black life. This is just life. I mean, the real mover on it certainly is, it doesn't really say that it's racism. It says that their issue is economics. They're ground down. They can barely get by financially, and it affects their relationships. It affects the way they get on in the world. Did you have more to say, Nia?
Nothing that hasn't already been touched on. My mind was brought again to all of the little doors. It's the only way to describe it. All the little things that they had on their set wall to create different spaces and open up a door, and a bench comes out to create a park, gets pulled away, and then on top of that, like both of you guys were talking about how I'm terrible with names, but how the actress who played she and the actor who played her childhood love, how they managed to capture so much childhood innocence and also the lack of childhood innocence. I mean, they brought me back to being that young, and then but also, like Sharon was saying, you also can tell that while they allow themselves to be young in each other's presence, when it comes down to it, they both have had experiences that have, made them wiser than they would seem, and just the young love and the hope and the struggle to achieve a dream, which is something many people struggle with today. And like my dad was saying, this show is for anyone who has had a dream, any woman who is interested in re-experiencing young girlhood and that shift into womanhood, sometimes jarringly. Just so many little aspects that they touched on. The dynamics between a mother and a daughter who are both living, mom has also lived her life and is at a point in her life where she's stuck with her own demons, and just a beautiful interplay. Every character had a purpose. There wasn't a character that was just there to drop some lines or give some information. Each character was living their life and had come together in these moments in this show. It felt like we were just peering into Sojourner Freeman's life, as opposed to someone, a group of people coming and performing a show. It felt like we were just kind of cutting through space and time and watching this neighborhood, as opposed to watching a show. Just magical, powerful. Please go see it. Please, please, please go see this. You will cry.
The issue of it's a play about the role of not just a young girl, but of women in the world. And her mom is played by Karen Molina White, who Sharon recognized from the Cosby Show. But I mean, she's a grown woman, has a teenage child, and the world is stacked against her as a woman just as well.
Yeah, I was going to say we should absolutely mention Karen Molina White, who played Charmaine in the Cosby Show 30, maybe that was 35 years ago, the Cosby Show. And it was, you know, I've seen Karen Molina White in other small playhouses around Los Angeles, and she just does an awesome, very believable, very real, they're not acting, they're just being, they are being those people. So Karen Molina White plays the mother of the 13-year-old whose name is She. She Sojourner, what is her last name?
Freeman.
Freeman. She Sojourner Freeman. And they don't talk about why that name was given to her. It's an interesting name, and maybe we'll talk to the playwright and ask, you know, where the name came from. But some of the other, there were 6 actors, 6 characters. Lorenz Arnell plays the 14-year-old boyfriend. John Chaffin plays the boyfriend of
The ne'er-do-well.
Well,
boyfriend.
yeah, I don't want to get too hard on him. Gerard Joseph has a role in it. And Veronica Thompson is the nosy neighbor next door, and we have all had them.
Mm-hmm.
And again, she was not acting, she was just being that nosy neighbor. Just awesome.
So Nia talked about seeing that play again, and it seems like one we might see again. And interestingly, another play we saw again and dragged some friends to was Blue.
Yeah.
About the 2 police officers on Melrose Avenue. And the playwright of that play, June Carroll, was there in the audience with her. She walked in and I was going, wait.
Yeah. Yes, we sat on the same row, and when we left, she was standing in the lobby as everyone was coming out at the end of the play. And I think there wasn't a dry eye in the house, including June's.
Right.
So,
well, good. How special. I think we will go see it again, and we'll certainly see something else.
Yeah.
So thank you, Nia. Thanks for breaking away from teaching school and joining us.
Yeah. LA's got some really good stuff. She is absolutely a must-see, as was Blood on the Root, as Blue. So good stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing what these small theaters with relatively cheap tickets can do. It's hard to believe that they can survive with just 80 people in the audience, but they're doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, until next time, bye-bye.
So long.
Thank you for sticking around. If you like the LA Progressive content and the discussions we have here, please consider clicking the subscribe button below, and also give us a thumbs up. That helps to grow our audience by feeding the algorithm, which helps to get this content in front of more eyes. Thanks for stopping by. We really appreciate your support.